So welcome everyone to the presentation about the Open Upgrade project. I'll make an introduction to the migration process. I'm Raúl Ortiz from ForgeFlow, and I've been the responsible for the kickoff of this new version of Open Upgrade, version 14. So what will this be about? First, I'll talk about some Open Upgrade basics for those of you who don't already know the Open Upgrade project, and also make a brief introduction of Open Upgrade Lib. Then I will talk about the basic steps for the migration of a Odoo database. And finally, I think there will be an open discussion about the current state and the future of the Open Upgrade project. I will also make the migration process with a live demo. Okay, so Open Upgrade basics here. First of all, for those of you who don't already know, Open Upgrade is this tool that allows us to grab a database of the modules of the community version of Odoo that are in one version and make them compatible with the next one. That means migrating a database to the next version. It's important to know that it's only for the standard modules of Odoo, not the enterprise or third-party modules. And this migration with Open Upgrade happens from one version to another. So if I want to migrate 2 versions at a time, from 12 to 14, for example, I will use Open Upgrade 13 and Open Upgrade 14. So in this example here, Open Upgrade 14, we use it to migrate from 13 to 14. So how Open Upgrade works? Open Upgrade relies on 3 stages: pre-migration, post-migration, and end-migration. Pre-migration makes changes to the data of a module before being loaded in the new version. Post-migration, it happens in the module. It makes the modifications to the data once it's loaded on the new version. And this is repeated for all the modules. Once all the modules are loaded to the database, then the end migration will happen for each one of them. So just to see an example, if we go into the Open Upgrade repo in GitHub and we open the add-ons folder, we go into account, there is a special folder called migrations, and inside it, in the version 13.0.1.1, there are 3 scripts with the names of these stages that will have the changes from one version, from 12, in this case, from 12 to 13. I put this example because account is one of the big ones when migrating, and it had the three scripts. So what is Open Upgrade Lib? Open Upgrade Lib is a library that gives us support functions for the migration. On the top left corner, you can see an example of the basic structure of a migration script. That is this script that will make the modifications to the data to make it compatible with the next version. And the first thing we do is import this Open Upgrade Lib. Will also give us this Open Upgrade migrate function. That is the one that triggers all the migration. That when the migration is triggered, this will tell that here there's code to make the migration. So the functions that gives us Open Upgrade Lib are the ones that those are only examples. These are not all the functions, but examples of those functions are the ones you see on the right, and are very common changes that happens from one version to another. So in each new version of Odoo, there's changes in field names, in field columns, and it's very easy to migrate thanks to these already created functions that allows the developer to don't have to create a new SQL query for every time one of the changes happens. It also allows to introduce SQL queries that interact directly with the data, so the process is much more efficient. And finally, adds features from Open Upgrade that, for example, legacy name is a feature that allows us to preserve the data from one version to another. So basically, is this. So now that we have a basic introduction to the Open Upgrade and the Open Upgrade lib, also just to one more thing here in Open Upgrade lib, it's also useful for creating the migration scripts for other modules that are not the ones in the standard version of Odoo. So now I'm going to talk you from into the steps, the basic steps when migrating an Odoo database. So I divided this process into 4 steps. The first one would be analyzing what do I have in my database. The first thing that I need to do is see how many modules do I have, where they come from, if they are standard, if they are from the enterprise version, if they are third-party modules or third-party apps. So as I already told, Open Upgrade, this project is only for the community version of Odoo, the standard and free version of Odoo. So once I know how many of these do I have, and also I've done some data cleaning. That means deleting the records that can cause problems during the migration, such as records that you've created to test your database or some functionality. You can go to Open Upgrade and see if the migration scripts are already created for that version. All the modules you have its support in the Open Upgrade project. So once you check that and you see that you can migrate all the modules you need, you can start the actual migration. So data will be modified and made it compatible with the next version. And once it's done, you should check your data to see if it's in the way you want it to be. So also a recommendation is to make obviously a backup of your data, because it's going to be modified and it can cause some trouble. Okay, so now I'm going to make a live demo. So first of all, what do I have here? For this demo, I'm going to migrate a very basic database from Odoo 12 to the version 14. For this, I have in my local a regular Odoo 12, where I'm going to create the database, and Odoo 13, regular Odoo 13, where I'm going to check if the migration to this next version is going okay, and this migration to the version 13, I will do it with the Open Upgrade version of Odoo. You can see here that it's not called Odoo, it's called Open Upgrade, but here I have the same structure as in Odoo. But when I go into these folders, I see a special folder that's called Migrations, where I have the migration scripts for one each of the modules. So the first thing, the steps are going to be creating a database in Odoo 12 and create some test and demo records, migrate it with this Open Upgrade version 13, check it with the Open Upgrade version 13, and then I'm going to migrate this database to the version 14. This will be done with the new way to do it, that is downloading the Open Upgrade as a folder and will be installed in a module-like way. So now with new version 14 of Open Upgrade, I have a module that's called Open Upgrade Framework, and the Open Upgrade scripts are on this folder. And on this folder, here inside the scripts, we have all the scripts for the modules in the Open Upgrade. So let's create a database in Odoo 12. Here in my local, I have already opened Odoo 12, and let's see which launch parameters do I have here. So first of all, I add the 2 basic add-ons folders. I'm not going to add enterprise or third-party modules. So you see, because I want to point that this is only for the basic modules that come with free Odoo. So I'm going to create a database that's going to be called Odoo 12 to migrate, initialize the base module, and I don't want demo data. I want to create it myself to see if it has been created correctly. So I'm going to run this. And once the modules are loaded, I'm going to open here the version 12, sorry, and I see that I have my database here. I'm going to go into it and install one module, that's going to be contacts. So I'm going to make this demo with the contacts module. Okay, so here I'm going to go into contacts app and create, for example, customer that will be Raúl, myself, in Tane Street, for example, in Barcelona. And this is info that I will remember to check later in the new versions. So I'm going to put myself in Spain and some dummy information here just to test it. So save it, and I'm going to also create a company that can be ForgeFlow, for example, here in Street 1, Street 2, Barcelona again. Okay, so now I save it and I remember the data I've put into my records. So now I have my database in version 12 and I'm going to migrate it to version 13. For this, I'm going to open the Open Upgrade folder for version 13. And here I have some different launch parameters. The two basic add-ons folders here in the add-ons path. I've pointed to the database I want to migrate, and I use this option to trigger the migrations. This option will trigger the Open Upgrade scripts. I've put here a port, but it's not needed because I'm not going to open the database with this Open Upgrade version. So I'm going to run the migration. It won't take too long because it's a very, very basic database. And once we see the modules are loaded, we can check in version 13 if the migration has gone the way we wanted. So now it looks okay. Now it looks that it's finished. So I'm going to open a regular module 13. And here I only have the two basic add-ons folders and a port. I'm not going to even select the database. So you see what do I have in my database manager. Here, I'm going now to the database manager in version 13, and I see that I have a compatible database that was before compatible with Odoo 12. Why do I know it's compatible? Because it doesn't appear this warning here that tells me that this, for example, this database is not compatible with this version 13. So I open it just to check if the records I created are with the correct data, are still okay. And they look quite good. So now I'm gonna stop this instance of Odoo and open the 14th version and migrate it to this version. So now I only have one folder here in my local. So I will need two configurations, one configuration to migrate my database and another one to run it. So what do I have in the migration configuration? I have again, the two basic add-ons folders. And also I have added here the Open Upgrade folder. Now I have access to those scripts, the Open Upgrade framework. So how do I load it? I use this option called Open Upgrade Path, where I point to the scripts and I'm also loading the module OpenUpdate framework. I point to the database, and I use again the update all flag. So I'm going to migrate this database to the version 14. This won't take also too long because, again, it's a very basic database. Okay, so now that it's done, I'm going to run the database with my run configuration, which is, again, the two basic add-ons paths and this port here. So now what do I have in my manager in version 14? Here I see that it's a compatible database with my version 14. I will see some issues, I think, in the UI, but the important thing is that my records have the information that I want in the way I want. So I open them, I check them, and they look okay. So I can see that I successfully have migrated this database from the version 12 to the version 14. And just to end this part of the presentation, for a real database, you should have a lot of modules from third parties, from enterprise. So downloading everything and cloning everything in your local for this migration can be a real pain. So there's a tool provided by here, Axone, that really makes it very easy. It's called Git Aggregator, and it's a pip library that you can create a folder. Here you put a repos.yaml file, and following this structure, you can add all the remotes and all the pull requests from that remotes and everything really easily. And just with the command git aggregate -c repos.yaml, you can clone it, everything in your local, really easy. So that will be it for the presentation, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Raúl, for the presentation. So maybe if it's a discussion talk, so if someone wants to ask or share something, he can unmute himself or to discuss.
I will also encourage Pedro. I don't know if Pedro Baeza is around here, or Miquel.
Yeah,
to help me here. They are really welcome.
No doubts. Everything is very clear. Someone is saying something. Do you want to answer, Raúl?
Sorry, I haven't listened it too well.
Yeah, Fernando is saying that he has a version 6 of OpenERP and need to migrate to 14.15. What do you recommend?
So first of all, I recommend just checking which is the state for the Open Upgrade on those versions. Then you can go here in the Open Upgrade GitHub repo, and I think you can find into the milestones, you can see more or less which is the process in each one of the versions. And then once you check that until version 13, you can see that it's almost everything done. But for each one of the modules, I would recommend to go into here and check into the branch, for example, if you have version 5, so you need to upgrade first to 6, then 7, and that until version 14 and check in each one of the branches here in add-ons if the module you have installed in your database has indeed the migration scripts.
Raúl, there is a place where you can centralize all these status. That is, go directly to the main page of the repository, and there is a link to the documentation. Go to the button.
To the, sorry?
Button at the end. And check documentation, yeah, module coverage.
Module coverage, oh, okay, here.
Yeah, that one. So you can see if the modules you have installed in your database are covered or not. Not being covered can mean that there is nothing to do, but it hasn't been analyzed, or there is some stuff to be done, but nobody has still do it because they don't have such module installed. So for migrating something, maybe the module is not covered, but maybe it will migrate without errors. But that doesn't mean also that the data is going to be consistent if there is no point here. For example, you have here account log module. That module is a very simple one that for sure it will be nothing to do, but nobody has checked this. So if you have this module installed on your database, maybe it will work or maybe not. So you have to make sure that you won't have any problems. If you are migrating and you get an error, maybe it's due to this. Another thing to take into account, custom modules. That is very common that you have some custom modules in your version 6, for example, in this case, and you want to migrate and do a jump between several versions. You don't need to migrate these custom modules across all versions. You only need to migrate them to the target version, the last one. So on the intermediate migrations, you will have a warning saying, hey, this module is not found, it's not present. Yeah, no problem, but no transformation is going to be done in between. So when you get to the target version, you get the module and everything, the cycle is completed. What you have to take into account is that if you are using OCA modules and jumping between several versions, take into account that if the OCA module is present on the intermediate versions, please include it in your add-ons pack, or on the contrary, you may find problems because these intermediate OCA versions contain migration scripts that are not run. So when coming to the target versions, the data is not going to be as expected. Okay, so these are my tips on such question about the jump between several versions.
Thank you. Yeah.
There is one question on YouTube. What's the process to add the migration scripts for other modules? It's a bit like what you said about Pedro, but I think it's about not Odoo modules, but I mean not Odoo SA module, but OCA modules or custom modules. If you want to explain this.
You mean to migrate OCA modules, or?
Mm-hmm. I'm thinking that it's referring to transform data in other custom modules that are not Open Upgrade 1 or OCA ones. Is this what the person is asking? Can you check, Benoit?
Yeah, I will check.
Anyway, it's a legit question if it's that one, and if not, we can answer several of them. So about that thing, you have to think that Open Upgrade, what makes is to add the migration scripts and adapt a bit the framework. But the framework contains already the migration machinery, the framework for migrating. So you have to follow the same rules to perform and to develop your own migration scripts. This is what Raúl has explained. You have the pre-migration script, the post-migration script, and the end migration script. So if you include in your custom module such folder migrations, and inside that folder a folder called with the module version, the migration machinery will execute such scripts. So that's the entry to perform any change you need on your custom data.
Yeah.
Is that enough, or the question goes to other?
It was about exactly that, and it's good. It's clear.
Okay, perfect. Sylvain is asking about data regarding the duration of a real migration. That's not possible, Sylvain. Why? Because it depends on your database. From version to version, there is huge changes on one area, or not too very huge changes. But depending on this data, the migration scripts will last a lot or very few. You can have a very huge database of gigabytes, but takes less than an hour. And you can have a half of a gigabyte database and take a lot. It depends on the data you have. For example, on version, I'm struggling right now with this problem. I'm migrating a database from version 10 to version 11. And it has a lot of invoice lines that contains two taxes. Look what specific is the use case. For that case, it's not possible to perform an SQL for calculating the total without taxes. That is a new field that is added on this version. So we have to use ORM for performing this computation. I have about 130,000 of invoices with invoice lines, sorry, of this use case. So it takes me 6 hours for doing this. It's a very specific case that happens because the aggregation of these things. So on Open Upgrade, we try that all takes the less possible time. But sometimes, depending on your use case, this is going to take a lot. We have made on the past several patches to improve the performance on specific areas that hit our use case. For example, we performed on version 9 a very huge improvement on performance, converting some ORM compute fields to SQL. And in our database, we pass from similar hours, 24 or more, to barely 2 hours. But it needs to be case by case examined, analyzed, and see if it can be improved or not. Anything more, Sylvain?
There is a question on YouTube also about the migration of the module code, not the database. Is there some tools, I guess, to detect, if I remember correctly, to detect what has changed if a field doesn't exist anymore, or stuff like that, to compare the different version. But can you maybe speak about this?
I'm not sure to understand the question. Raúl, do you have it clear, or Miquel?
I think he refers to some tool to see the changes that happens in the code from one version to another.
Yeah.
Is that?
He refers to that. But I think that this only exists for the Open Upgrade project. I don't know if it can be applied to an OCA module.
Not exactly. Let me comment. Also, Miquel is the master of this part because he is always doing that. Miquel, do you want to answer this? Is Miquel online? Oh, okay. I'm trying to explain the general stuff about this. We have a tool for detecting database scheme changes. This tool is called Open Upgrade Recourse on all versions, and now it has been renamed to Upgrade Analysis, I think. It's on server tools. Raúl, maybe you can enter on OCA server tools repo. Can you please open and you type? No, in OCA server tools.
OCA
server tools.
Okay.
Yes, and look for upgrade or analysis there. See, Sylvain is passing on the chat name. Upgrade analysis. It's at the end. At the end, there it is. It's a module that installs on both databases the previous version and the new one, and installing the modules, the affected modules, it's able to extract the database scheme modification. So it says this field has disappeared, or this column. This one has appeared. This field is now of this type, and so on. This is the base for Open Upgrade. We, Miquel, run this. Miquel or Stefan are the usual persons that perform this on the Odoo core modules. So the result of this, please, Raúl, go again to Open Upgrade and enter on one migration script. Entering one of them. No matter, any of them.
I know here there's something.
Yeah, exactly. You see there? No, not in the.
Oh, okay, yeah.
On the upgrade analysis.
Yeah. Okay.
No, that one exactly. This is the result of this module doing the analysis. It spits out put this file saving the changes on the database scheme. With this, you are able to deduce the things you have to do for transforming data. But this is not always complete because there is some changes that are not reflected on the database scheme, but conceptually or functionally are changed. So this is a very good base, but you have to take into account also the functional workflow on the previous version and the functional workflow on the new one for being sure that the migration scripts are complete. One example I have in mind, on version 11, there was the quantocalypse thing that means that quants are no more the traceability thing. Before this version, you have that each one, when it's reserved, was split and linked to a reservation move. On version 11, the quants are only an expression of your stock quantities. So there is no more quant fragmentation. This wasn't be reflected on the database scheme because you have the same table, stock quant, and the same fields, quantity, and so on. So on this file, we don't see any change referring to this. But knowing how it works, we needed to perform a quant merge strategy for merging all the quants that belongs to the same product, location, lot, and so on. So as you are seeing, it's not easy to perform these migration scripts, but they are very methodological. You have to examine this file, see each of the fields, deduce what you have to do, and then perform a functional test on one place and the other, and then deduce if there is something extra to be done. Okay. Anything more? No?
Someone is asking, what will be the process to review a PR in Open Upgrade project? Anything specific?
For reviewer requests, well, try in a real database. It's very complicated. We perform usually a code review, what means that knowing which are this file, reading this file, what are the usual changes we have to do, and then code reviewing that these changes are performed. But at the end, only testing this on real database leads to the real problems. That problem is you have to take into account when you are analyzing an error in your migration, if it comes not from the migration scripts, but a previous inconsistent database situation. And that inconsistency can be not by your fault, but Odoo or OpenERP being very weak on the constraints. One example, on version 8, you have that you put a sale order line with any product, and on the pickings or on the invoices, you can change this product or the unit of measure, and Odoo is not going to complain. But when migrated to version 9, you will find that when trying to compute the quantity, the invoice quantity, it will be throws an error. Why? Because it can convert between two incompatible units of measure. If you have changed to one of these incompatible units, you will have the error, but it's not an error of OpenAgri. It's something that has been performed on the database, and Odoo is not preventing this. From version 9, you will have an error saying, hey, you cannot do that. And then Odoo is not going to let you to go to this inconsistent state. But on previous version, yes. So this enforces more even to migrate as soon as possible to higher versions, okay? It's very convenient for not having this. Half of the time I pass migrating databases is cleaning databases before migrating, taking into account these conditions, okay? Sometimes you can try to migrate and see what happens, but when there is an error, there is a high chance that this error is not because of the migration script, but the database condition. Okay. Sylvain is asking about the business model for the OpenAgri project. A ver, let's see. Indeed, OCA is funding a part of these development scripts, and it's being performed by ForgeFlow and by Tecnativa. Is it enough? No, I'm afraid it's not enough. And is it be able? We can say that we are more or less giving a gift, a paid gift to OCA and community in general, because the development of this script costs a lot more than the budget we are passing. But it's a compromise between having, we are going to do this somehow in any moment. So we get some funds for saving with our internal costs for doing these scripts. So it's a compromise that in several years we are doing ForgeFlow and Tecnativa. Next year, we don't know if we want to follow this path. For now on, we are on that way of thinking. So we are going to continue migrating our customers to new versions and so on. So for sure, we will be bidding on the OCA RFQ for performing this in time and form. But maybe there is some time that we don't want to do it because we are in a rush, we don't have time, and we will contribute later. So you have to take into account, and all the person that is listening to this talk, that this is a key project that you have to fund. How? Through OCA can be the best option. OCA is doing that, and for now we are more or less admitting a low budget for doing that, for doing this. But the ideal thing is that OCA have the full budget for performing this very, very good and not having any of that lines empty. Because for now, OCA is only funding the modules that are installed in their instance, that they are a set of them. Not sure if 150 or so, but not the whole Odoo modules. So please think when you are using this, that doing some contribution on money, in this case, will lead to be able to maintain this and to be sustainable. Not sure if we have more time. This is, well, yeah, it's we have a lot of time. So if you want to ask more things.
There is no question on YouTube.
There is another questions in the chat. Rigor and Victor. Oh, okay. Perhaps already asked, what's the time frame for version 15 support? Well, as said on the funding thing, there is for now no roadmap. This is something that year by year it's covered on the annual budget, and this budget is approved for each natural year. So for now, on the 2021 budget, it was included the Open Upgrade to version 14 project. So at least for now, the version 15 project will enter on 2022. I know that the OCA board has this in mind, because it's more or less an issue to start at least 3 months late. But for now, is this one. Then the RFQ must be done, approved, and then cover a time frame that not always can be complied, because the inherent difficulties on the transformations in the database, and this not being a whole budget project. So we have to put in the middle the rest of the jobs we have for covering our capacity. It's probably version 15 migration is going to be the smoothest one in the history. Seeing the changes and so, it seems so. But we always find a surprise when we dig on the things that has been changed. So I'm not able to say any time frame. And if OCA is going to be able to fund 1 year more this project, because the fundings are very low. So I ask again to please contribute to OCA. Being member is very cheap, only 15 euros per year, or doing a direct donation for this project, or in general. Anyways, not having the fundings doesn't mean that you can start voluntarily to perform this migration in the scripts. But I know it's very hard to begin with this. So starting, it's not the same to, hey, let's do one migration script for this small module than start the beginning of the version, because it needs the infrastructure, the test, the base module that is always the hardest one to perform, because it has to do all the ground for the rest of the scripts. So I know it's hard, and probably you won't be able to contribute on this starting phase. But what? I'm also surprised for the good that some initial contributors has started very with very good contribution and very hard ones. So you can be one of these.
I don't see any more questions.
So as always, we have the GitHub community for doing any other question and so on. Please use the specific tool for each thing. We have discussions for discussion, questions, and so on. And we have issues for real issues, and issues as said with the migration scripts. So please don't be lazy. Analyze before spitting out an issue if the issue is really on the migration scripts. Sometimes it's not easy to analyze this, but we try to at least clean a bit the issue message you are putting. Good questions, you will get good answers. Bad question or lazy questions, you will get lazy answers or no answers at all. Not sure if we have to continue here until the end, or if nothing more, maybe simply go to do any other thing.
Yes, I think we can stop the discussion now. Thank you, Pedro, for the answers.
Thank you very much, Pedro, for having me here.
No problem. Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.